Hello, welcome to Celestia Astrology. My name is Sonia, and I'm just wanting to check in because we had a really busy week last week of astro weather. A lot was happening. In fact, I've got 5 things that I've noted here, the 5 main things that happened that I wanted to talk to you about. So it's kind of like a what's going on episode to talk to you about those 5 main things, talk about how they might have affected you, and to show you what happened on the chart, just so you can see it on the chart if you'd like to see it, and talk about what might have affected you the most and what you could maybe do about that. So I'm recording it today on Tuesday because today we have Mercury and Jupiter coming together in Aries. And for me, that means it's a day to get my message out, which is why I was like pulled towards recording this. While we've got that conjunction, and also I would say to you, if there's something that you're wanting to start, the Aries energy is full of making the fresh starts. It's a fresh slate for us. But particularly today, while those two are together, Mercury is all about how we communicate and how we receive energy and how we process it and how we then share it with the world. And Jupiter brings things together for us, adds fresh life breath into it. So he will expand whatever we give him. So for those two to come together, it's a very good time for sending something out into the world that you want to be heard. So if there's something that you're planning, even if you just take the first step of it, though, that energy will stay with that project for you. So certainly make sure that you get that first step done today, whether it's speaking an intention out loud to somebody, writing down the plan in a mercurial way of thinking, writing, speaking, making a phone call, anything like that, making a diary note of when you're next going to take the action, anything that counts as a positive first step towards that plan. Even if you don't know the whole plan, it doesn't have to be fully formed yet. That will come into place as you take those first steps down the road. Every journey starts with that first step, you know, so as long as you take that first step with intention, with not necessarily the clarity of the whole plan, but an intention of the plan and where you want to be at the end of it, you know, even if it's, you know, I don't necessarily know exactly where this is going to take me, but I know what this plan is for today. I know there's 5 things that I want to communicate to you. And so that is my plan for today. So even if I don't know where that would go as the year unfolds, this is my start that I'm making is to draw out those 5 things and to communicate them clearly to you. So, and obviously to suggest to you that you do the same. So with that in mind, I will tell you the 5 things and then I will show you them on the chart and sort of dive a little bit deeper and discuss them. But I'm still planning to only make this 20-30 minutes. So it's not going to be a long examination of each aspect, just a quick look at each one. So the 5 things are: on Sunday the 19th, Mercury first went into Aries. So you can see that he's now at 18 degrees, but that was when he was at the 1st degree. If you can see my little red dot there, that's when he first went in. He'll be there until the 3rd of April. And obviously today he's joining with Jupiter. So while he's traveling through that sign, there's that Jupiter Aries energy with him. On the 20th, the sun went into Aries, and the sun is moving a little bit slower than Mercury. So he's still at 7 degrees there. On the 21st, the moon went in, and the moon travels an awful lot faster. The moon is already all the way around here in Cancer. So the moon has been and gone by the time we're talking, but it was the 21st that the moon came in and brought us that new moon energy, which I will discuss as we get there. And on the 22nd, we had Pluto taking the first steps into Aquarius. So we will look at that as well. And the final thing was that Mars went into Cancer. So that's over here in Cancer. And obviously, as you see today, we have the moon and Mars joining together. So that's another reason for choosing today, when the moon is softening that Mars aspect and our inner emotions are coming out. So what I'm going to do is take this chart back to that first aspect, which happened on the 19th. So what you see here, go back one day, Mercury was in Pisces with the stellium of planets, close to Neptune, close to the sun, taking in all that energy. So he's having spiritual lessons here in Pisces and completing all that knowledge from the years. It's like having your annual review, getting those spiritual downloads and completing up the work of the year. And then the following day, on the 19th, he moves into Aries. And that's where the fresh start begins, the clean slate. He's completed his annual review. He knows how last year went. And now he's ready to put all of that into action. He's stepping up a level. It's although it's a fresh start and a new slate, it goes up. So for us, we can upgrade our communications. We can upgrade how we're receiving information. And again, this is about how we work with the planets and how we choose to use them in our own awareness. So for you, if you're wanting to use that upgrade, you can tap into it. Because Mercury's had that information, so we can, if you meditate or use mindfulness, I've got some mindfulness exercises on my channel, and I've done a mindfulness exercise for the new moon, and Mercury was mentioned. So you can use that to just align with that energy and bring out what you want to bring out. If you want to change how you communicate, if there's things about how you communicate with others or how you receive information that you want to change, this is a good time to work with that energy and make those changes. Because of that annual review time, it's a good time to reflect and take that. You've been doing that reflection throughout those winter months, but it's a good time to put it into action now, what you've learned, what you want to change. If you think about how three different people, three of your friends may watch the same TV program, but all come away with a slightly different message from it. One of you might have prioritized the environmental aspect. Somebody else might have heard the political argument. Somebody else might have just liked the clothes or the hair, and we all take something different away, even though we've watched the same thing. And that's about where Mercury is in our charts and how we see information, how we process it, what we hear. We tune into the message that we're most aligned with. And that's about how our Mercury is working for us. And at all times we can be mindful and tune into how it's working and work with him to tune how we want to improve that, not even improve, but work more skillfully with him if there's something that we want to change in our lives. And this is the best time to do it. When we've got that energy of making that fresh start. So that was the 19th, that's where we are. And the following day, the sun moves in. And that was what we call the spring equinox. It was the sun's moving in, and it reflects the return of the light. You may have heard the myth of Persephone and Demeter, and you would know that this spring equinox reflects the time when Persephone returns to Earth. Her mother comes out of mourning, and spring comes in. So it marks the start of spring for us, when everything starts growing and people are joyful. We celebrate Easter. It's also known as Ostara, which just sounds so beautiful to say. And if you notice, the sun's at 0 degrees here, and we have the new astrological year as well. So all that energy of newness and new beginnings and fresh starts is coming in. You get a clean slate. If you've made mistakes last year, again, you've had time to reflect on them, and you can do over, you can do better. So yeah, just be aware of that and take it on board. And the following day, the moon moves in. Now, I've done this chart by the day, but we can go back by hours, and we could have caught the new moon when it actually was the new moon at 0 degrees. So if I go back and forward it by hours, there, we've got the moon and the sun both at 0 degrees. And that's quite a powerful time. That 4:30 it was in London. The chart is drawn up because it has to be drawn up for somewhere. So it's centered around London in the UK, but that's why I'm not paying attention to what houses are represented in the chart, because it depends where you are as to what houses we would be looking at. So I'm not reading for the houses, but if I was looking at somebody's personal chart, I would be paying attention to what houses they were falling in. So this is the chart for London, and this represents a fresh start in this area of shared resources. So something's coming in London this year, representing how we're sharing resources, and that's what we're taking a fresh look at. And the fact that this is at 0 degrees is particularly significant because obviously, well, I say obviously, astrologers know that we've got Pluto at that 29, we've got Mars at 28, shortly to be 29 and 30 at the same time. And we've had other major conjunctions at 0 degrees this year. So there is a significance around that. And we're also going to be having a new moon in Aries in April, which will fall at the time of the eclipse. So there's 2 Aries new moons this year. So that brings even more potency to that Aries energy. And Aries is a sign, it's the first sign of the zodiac, and it's about, it holds the warrior energy because it's ruled by Mars. So Mars has, if you like, beaten away the darkness of winter, and Aries represents the triumph of the light. The light has returned. Light is still rising because we know that the evenings are getting longer, but they're not quite there yet. So light is still rising, but it's the first celebration of, yes, we did it. Yes, we're here. Spring is back. The light has beaten the darkness. So it's that courage and courageousness and passion. And for us as individuals, it's all about, who are we? When we win, when we come into ourselves, who are we in the world? What do we represent? What are we about? What's our values? What do we look like even? Some people may change their appearance or learn something new about themselves at this time, find a new way of speaking and being in the world, find a new way to represent themselves to other people, be seen in a different way at this time. And particularly when there's these 2 moons and the sun and the moon aligning at 0 degrees, this is like a very potent time, a very energetic, powerful time to represent who you are in the world. So there's still time to grab this energy. The moon is still waxing, although she's moved out of Aries into other areas, she's still gathering up that energy. So the energy that she began in Aries is still coming to its full fruition, and it will still be gathering until she reaches the full moon. So there's still time, if you manifest or you work with the moon, there's still time to send out your intentions and still work on what you plan for. And you're not only planning for this lunar cycle, you're also planning for the next 6 months until the full moon in Aries. So you can plan ahead for 6 months, and you can also plan ahead for the whole year. So yeah, that's another reason why I wanted to do this recording and share this information with you. If you want to make plans for a month, for 6 months, for a year, it's a particularly great time to start working on that. So moving on to the next thing to know about this year, we then move on to Pluto. I'll move on by days instead of hours. Sonia, come on. And there we see Pluto has just crossed the line. So if we go back a day, he was there in Capricorn. Many of us astrologers actually counted down the hour. I did a little countdown on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter just to count down the hours until he passed the line. It was an exciting time for us because he can spend anywhere between 13 to 15 up to 30 years in any one sign. And I know that he'll be in Aquarius for 20 years once he moves in permanently. He'll be dancing the cha-cha across this line. He's only here for 3 months before he moves back to Capricorn. And then he'll move back in 2024 in January. He'll move back again to Capricorn. And it's not until November 2024 that he moves into Aquarius to stay there. And he'll then spend 20 years moving slowly up through Aquarius before he finally moves into Pisces. And in 20 years, I may well have retired from astrology, although I'll still be looking at it for myself, but I might not be teaching, reading, talking about it. So that felt like a prophecy. I'm not even teaching about it yet, but I hope to. So yeah, within 20 years, I hope to be teaching about it within that 20 years. So Pluto, yeah, maybe that's what Pluto has in store for me during those 20 years. I hope to work with Pluto and maybe manifest that. So Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto works with us slowly. He reveals things gradually to us. So you probably won't feel a change immediately unless you've got other planets at that 0 degrees, which was why I was talking about the 0 degrees earlier. If you see the moon there has moved on to 2 degrees. And with Pluto, it really needs to be exact. It needs to be, because he's so slow moving. But he will move to 1 and 2 degrees during his time this year, and he will then retrograde back to 29 degrees in Capricorn. So if you've got planets at those angles, you may well feel Pluto's influence. And also because he's in the sign of Aquarius, he'll be affecting the signs that are opposite. So Leos will feel that energy, Capricorns and Scorpios, the fixed signs, are going to be feeling the touch of Pluto in that sign, and particularly those with planets at those degrees. Pluto will reveal things gradually to us. So you may have that little voice in your head that's telling you that something isn't quite right for you, that you can do better. And that's how he first reveals himself, I believe. And that's what others have shared with me, really, in talking about how they're working with Pluto as well. It's just that little niggling thing of, yeah, I shouldn't really be doing this, or I should really be doing that. Just that understanding that you really need to change things. And Pluto asks us to bring acceptance to what we're being shown, and then to release those things that are not right in our lives. So if you work well with him, when you're first being shown that, and you know that something isn't right, and you know what you're being shown is what's right, and you're in a place where you are ready to release and really surrender to what you're being shown, then it's quite a gentle process. Pluto first brought me to astrology. He was at a particularly sensitive degree in my chart when I started my very first course, in fact, on the actual day that the course started. And I didn't understand that until I was going through the course and learning about Pluto and sensitive degrees and how they work with us. And when I looked back at my sensitive degrees, I couldn't believe it when I saw that that was the day that the course started. And I understood that actually tracking Pluto is showing my astrology career, and the house that he was in and the house that he's in now is really showing my journey with astrology. So that is how he was showing me and bringing me to this. And that's how he may well be working with you. He shows you what the possibilities are for you. And if you're open to them and receptive to them, then it's quite a straightforward process. However, if you resist, even though you know that it's not right, but you cling on to the past and what feels secure, what's maybe structures that are supporting you, but you could take the leap into something that's better, but you don't feel ready, something's holding you back, then it can feel unnerving, because those structures could crumble and disappear, and you're forced to take that leap, whether you like it or not. And he will be ultimately empowering. That leap will be good for you. And obviously, the more confident you are when you take it, the better. And the better the position you're in when you take it, the better. But chances are that leap will happen, whether you're ready or not. I like to say you can, you will, you must. And that's kind of like the 3 stages where he shows you. At first, he's showing what you could do, what you can do, what the possibilities. Then he's showing you must do it. You really must. You know, it's time. Come on, get on with it. And then he's showing you will. You know, you're going to do this, whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. And if necessary, he'll take away what's stopping you. Those blocks will be removed. But there's nothing to fear, because he is empowering. This is giving you your power. This is about putting you in your power, and removing the things that are taking your power away. So there isn't any reason to be fearful. And it's not a sudden change because he's moved. It's about where he's aspecting your chart. So there's no reason to be fearful of sudden change. And the same for the collective. In Aquarius, it's about technology and innovation. And there's revolutionary energy in the air. When he was last there, the American independence movement and the French Revolution happened. So there's also that pull to individuality and humanitarian causes. I mean, obviously, we're living in our current times, so the issues are different. But I feel there's going to be a lot about the individual and what individuals' rights are, what individuals' rights can be taken away, what governments have rights to take what away, you know, and how the individual fights back. How do we organize as a collective to advocate for our rights, you know, and how do we stand up as a society? You know, what is society for if it's not for representing the people within it? What is capitalism for? Is it to make money for companies, or is it to make lives better for the people within it? You know, who does it support? So there's a lot of questions that we're going to ask ourselves while Pluto's in Aquarius. And also technology, who is that for? You know, is it to support wealthy entrepreneurs that they can go to the moon and waste Earth's resources? Or is it to make all of our lives better? There's a lot of questions. Should we be colonizing the moon? You know, why are these things being done? Why does this seem so important to people while there's people on this earth without water, you know, and without housing and without access to the internet? There's a lot of deep questions we need to ask about society and fairness within our society. And I think that's likely to be what's happening. And Pluto in Aquarius is about giving power back to the people. In Capricorn, he was about power and power structures and ambition and individual achievements. And now we're more about the collective and responsibility for the collective and how the collective organizes and advocates for itself. So rights for all the minorities that aren't represented fairly in our society, that needs to be addressed, and we need to ensure that everybody's voice is heard. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? You know, it's about everybody's voice getting heard. Also, I believe we'll only know as time and the themes play out. But the main theme for you to know for now is that the next 3 months while he's there is an introduction to the themes. So for the collective, watch the news. You will see what's playing out in the news at the moment. We can see the revolutionary energy literally playing out on the streets of France and in Israel as well. And we can also watch for ourselves. It's a good time to journal what's actually occurring in your life, the changes that are happening. And it may well be that in these 3 months, we're being given an introduction to what we'll be working on for the next 20 years for ourselves. So that's the key takeaway that I'd like you to be aware of for yourselves. And then finally, we go to the last move, which is over here, our friend Mars. And Mars in Gemini has been about aggression, and historically wars can start while Mars is in Gemini. And of course, we've seen in the time that Mars was in Gemini, we have seen a ramping up of aggression in the Ukraine. And we've seen the war take to the air, which isn't a surprise as the Great Conjunction moved to the air sign, and we're moving to an Aquarian time of the air. So questions are being asked about who controls the air over Ukraine, the fear of the air coming from Ukraine. And now Mars moves into Cancer, a watery sign, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the main thing that I want you to know about this change is that because Cancer is ruled by the moon, Mars here is in his fall. He's not able to express himself in the same way that he was in Gemini. So there's a chance that you will feel this shift as well. This is the one that we're most likely to feel immediately, because the moon moves the fastest of all the planets, and every 2.5 days the moon is changing sign. So we can see here that the moon was in Taurus when Mars first moved, and I'll go back at the end to the chart of today, and you'll see where the moon is now. So there, the moon was in Earth, and Earth and water mix quite well. We've seen, rivers flow quite well over the Earth, so there's a good mix there. But every time the moon moves, it depends on how those two elements mix as to how well adjusted Mars can feel. And obviously fire and water don't mix well. The water puts out the fire. So it literally is as literal and simple as that. So Mars struggles to find his expression. So that may mean that you see more passive aggressiveness, and that may be in your own expression. You may be called to act in that way that you don't normally, or you might find people around you acting in that way and they don't normally. So you might struggle to understand why somebody's acting differently to normal, or why you are. So that might be how you experience it. And then 2.5 days later, everything changes. You feel different, they're acting differently, and everything's up in the air again. So we've got Mars there until the 20th of May. So it's a quicker transit than he was in April. In Gemini, he was there since August. So there may be a story that you're wrapping up that started in August that is finishing now. So again, if you want to journal and reflect, you might want to think back about what did you start then that's finishing up now. Yeah, it's good to reflect and think about those things and see what stage you're moving into now with this quick changing. You might find your mood's changing. You might find you're getting more nostalgic, because that's what the moon brings us. You might find changes in your fortune. The moon brings fortune. She brings our inner thoughts to light. And Mars might be asking you to act on those inner thoughts with passion and courage, albeit dampened down by the water. You might find your causes come more to your attention, that you become like more active within your causes. And you might also find that home and family come to the fore of your attention, that you become more active, more inclined to spend more time with your family. And you may also find that with that, family issues come up. Long-standing family issues that need resolution might come up. And if they do, please act with kindness, and again, ensure that everybody's heard, and be wary that people have all sorts of issues acting on their charts. They might have Pluto calling on them, they might have Saturn in Pisces calling on them, and they might not be acting like their normal selves. So please bear that in mind and act with kindness. But it is a good chance to resolve these issues. If there have been long-standing issues that need resolution, this is a good time to get that done, especially with the Aries energy supporting that fresh start as well. So good luck if things like that do come up for you. So just to conclude, I'm going to go back to where we are right now and just look at where the moon is, because she's there next to Mars, bringing that energy of, okay, let's go out and do this now. So again, that's why I'm doing this talk while the moon's in Cancer, while those emotions are being brought to the surface for us all. So I hope that this has helped you. If you do have any questions, you're very welcome to reach out on my website, or I do offer a 15-minute consultation if you'd like to find out more about your own chart and how a reading could help you find out about where these planets are and how they're affecting your natal planets. I'd be really grateful if this information has helped you, for your likes and your comments and your subscribes. As a small channel, it really helps to grow, and the algorithms are tough, and there's a steep learning curve for an astrologer who really just wants to do astrology to get this IT out. And it has taken me a while to get over the learning curve of how to actually produce this video with the chart to be able to share this information with you. So I hope that I've got it right this time, and I hope this information reaches you in the right way. But if you've got any feedback or anything, I'd be grateful to know how I can help you better. Okay, thank you so much for listening if you've got to this point, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.